folks, TJ here, on the verge of going down in the town, printing out my first DVD SD cover art for a game that I created, and it started making me think, why don't I chat about why I became and I'm going to say it, a developer for making games on the Speccy Next. Why did I choose the Next? Why didn't I choose the Atari? That's what I was born and raised on. So I thought I would chat about some things. So let's go back in time. Invasion of the Cloud People. That is not a name that I came up with in my Speccy days. I'm going to call it since 2017 when I started exploring it because I was an Atari kid. 1980, I purchased my first computer. Mostly by myself. I paid for the 800. I think it was about $1,000. Mom and Dad, I think, purchased the cassette player, which was 200 and something. I just remember about 1,200 and some odd dollars later. Loved the Atari 800. Used it for a number of years, played games. Then I started exploring coding. Player missile graphics on the Atari 800, moving stuff around, shooting. And then I came up with Invasion of the Cloud People. That's a name I've had since the freaking early 80s. I started working on a game, and then fast cars and fast women came into the picture, and that kind of went away. I didn't do it. I started going, driving school and saving money for my first car, which was a 1972 Datsun 240Z, by the way, pumpkin orange, and it was a lady killer. So yeah, needless to say, other more important things came into life. So I never made the game. You start getting older, you start reminiscing. I've never left playing with old computers. I've been doing it since basically the 1970s, but I've had other hobbies along the way. So there's been ebbs and flows in my stuff. Now that I'm much older, I'm in my later 50s, around 2017 when the Speccy Next started being discussed, and I got a wind of it, I started going, hey, that's a nifty looking little computer. Started getting excited again. I was kind of in a lull from playing with retro computers. I was more interested in going out and fly fishing, Tenkara fly fishing to be exact, getting outdoors, camping. That was my MO. So I had sold a lot of and moved away from a lot of retro computers. I still had some, but very little. Oh, okay, so I started getting into I started watching videos for the Speccy Next. And I think it was the video for the Kickstarter that had Jim Bagley on it and Henrique and talking and the brother twins there that did Bo Diddley, what's Egbert, Dizzy. That was hard. You can see I do things unscripted, so I think it makes it funnier. Anyway, so I saw that and, we're going to make things, easy to program and easy for people to do coding and be that bedroom coder. Something that I was interested in long time ago. And then it kind of started rekindling my excitement for older computers. So I started collecting again. I started playing again. And I got on the list that I had to get myself a Speccy Next. Oh, it's going to be easy to learn how to program. You have sprites. You have all these things. And the Next team really made it inviting to come in and create your first game. Now, player missile graphics from my memory, and I've got tons of books, and there's lots of books out there to learn how to code and make your own games. I don't think it would have been rocket science, and I could have probably had just as much fun. But I think what interested me about the Next and the Spectrum compared to the Atari is that it was one computer I was shooting for, the Speccy Next. Where on the 800, even though pretty much every 8-bit Atari is very similar with slight additions, extra little bit of extra memory and some things along the way, it was more, obviously, an aged platform. There was no new Atari 800 coming out. And it was a whole bunch of computers. If I started coding on an Atari 800, which I had at the time, would it then work with a 1200? Did I need some translator to do this to make basic work? And it just got more confusing for me, and I didn't want to get into that. Even though it was probably simple, it just wasn't as inviting for me. And the sexy black little computer on the corner, that Speccy Next, was calling my name, saying, hey, buy me, program me. So I was getting excited about it. So then I kept watching, and I ended up buying a person's pledge. And I started diving into learning how to make my game. And I decided, okay, are you going to make this on the Speccy Invasion of the Cloud people or go back to the Atari? Naturally, the next one. It is a one computer I'm shooting for, or platform that really, if you look at it, a Speccy 48, it could play fine and dandy on a 48 Plus, and fine and dandy on a +2 and a +3. All of them were kind of the same again, but they seemed a lot more cohesive to me than, for some reason, on the Atari. And so I decided to make it for the Speccy 48. I made my first game on an Omni laptop, which is basically a Speccy 128 that looks like a Speccy 48, and made my first game on it. UDG graphics just made sense to me. Very similar, I think, to the Atari, where you have a grid and you put things together and you can move them around. I think that's what Atari called the player missile graphics. And so it just seemed simpler. I don't know why. Maybe some of the manuals that I had received with some older Speccy Nexts that I purchased, not Speccy Nexts, older Speccies that I purchased to kind of get myself up to speed, because it took a while for the Speccy Next to come out. So I've been reading books, and the books looked fun. They made sense. It was, hey, dummy, do this. And okay, everything jived. So I started exploring it more, purchased my pledge for the Speccy Next, and then made my Invasion of the Cloud people the next storm on the Speccy Next. So it came full circle. Invasion of the Cloud people started with an Atari, but a Speccy Next was introduced back in 2017. It was sexy. It was black. It looked cool. It was modern. It could be much faster. It could be 28 megahertz in speed. Oh, that looked good. So, okay, let's focus on doing that. Everything seemed to fall into place for me to develop, create my first game for the Spectrum. And then eventually the Spectrum Next, because that was my shooting target. I wanted the Next. I bought these other older Speccies so I could get familiar with it, because there's a lot of code and a lot of things that you can carry over into the world of Speccy Next. So are you a bedroom coder? Are you just some dude like me in my age bracket, a younger guy? It doesn't matter, but you've always wanted to make your first game. Well, let me invite you to, there's lots of Speccy Nexts out there now. There's been Kickstarter, the original Kickstarter for a board only, or I think they did a Kickstarter, or did they sell those boards only to developers? I forget. But there was a Kickstarter one that was the official one that I first purchased, which was keyboard and everything in one package. And then there was the Kickstarter 2, and now rumor of maybe a Kickstarter 3. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of Speccy Nexts that are all kind of really the same. It's a target that Kickstarter 1 is basically like Kickstarter 2. 2's got a few updates, but yeah, it's basically the same, and Kickstarter 3 will probably be that same. There's a target that you could shoot for, that you can make a game that could be available for 10,000 Speccy Next owners, and then there's some clones, like the N-Go, that's basically a Speccy Next with different keyboard, and it should basically play everything the same. And then there's some other ones out there that I'm not quite as familiar with, the Xberry Pi and the Misters. I don't know if they're full-fledged, fully capable Nexts in every angle, but it may play those games. But ultimately, if you want to shoot for a target of 10,000 people that have Speccy Nexts, that is a great target to shoot for, even if only 10 people from that. And the odds are likely that you'll find 10 people, because I found more than 10 people that liked my game, or I should say, at least play my game, following along with this whole thing of me becoming a developer. I guess I'm a developer now. I mean, I've had this game out since 2021. I made my Speccy 48K version before that. I'm forgetting when I did it. 2019? Something like that. Anyway, I started developing, started creating, started learning in a limited format, because I don't like math. When you start throwing numbers at me, I kind of go, oh, it drags me down. So I tend to say, okay, if this is going to halt me up from doing something, there's some programmers out there that make wonderful things, but they never come out, because they sit there and they try to perfect something so much, where I'm the opposite. Does it work? Does it move? Does it shoot? That's the goal. I don't need to have it crystal perfectly clear. I want to make it nice. But shit or get off the pot is what Dad always told me. May he rest in peace. You gotta get it out. You gotta do it. Let some people enjoy it. Otherwise, you're never gonna get feedback to know whether what you're doing is of value. Even if it's only for you, that's fine. But yeah, so I didn't want to dwell on something. So if I run up to a roadblock, if there's a 4 next loop that will get me past it, but it's slower, well, I'm going to take the slower route because I'm lazy. No, I'm not lazy. I actually get a lot of shit done, but I don't want to dwell on something too long and it never happened. So I'll find angles, ways around things. And then later on, the way I look at it is I can go back into said thing and try to perfect it later. But get the dang thing done, out, let people enjoy it, get some feedback, and then go back in time and say, okay, I could go back and adjust this, change this. There's new commands that can do this, and you could go back and tweak it. Or use those new things that you figured out along the way that you now have more time for, and your next project, there's always that next project. Will there be, for me, my little world of Invasion of the Cloud People? Will I make a 3rd game? Only time will tell, but I'm going to learn along the way. And one of the learning processes is, if you're a developer, you're going to either send out something digitally, which I've been doing for a while now. Itch is your friend. You can download stuff and make a donation where, like I did, and you make a couple of dollars here and there. Majority of them are just, they say, no, I don't want to pay this son of a bitch. I just want to play the game, which is fine. That's why we made it a donation. But you can also put it up for money. But then odds are it won't sell as many and you won't get as much feedback. I wanted feedback. I wanted people playing my game, getting interested in what I was doing. And now I've come to a point where for the last number of weeks in GIMP, I've been making DVD art for my first SD case. I've been making videos about the process. I now have some behind the scenes stuff for my Patreons and YouTube members of, because I only showed everybody the front cover and the side. Is that even the right angle? I made a video the other day where I had everything upside down. I should keep it. That's just the way I flow. And then the back. But I haven't showed you the inner cover. I haven't showed you the booklet. I haven't showed you the SD card sticker because I haven't made the SD card sticker. I'm still working on that, but I've made the booklet. But today is the day, Friday. I'm going to drive into town, which is a half an hour. I'm going to bring the little SD card that's in here that's got 2 files on it. .png for the front cover, PNG for the inside cover. I'm going to have my first printing done. I'm going to make 60 copies of this cover. Why 60? Because this first edition of the game is a special. Only 54 copies. And I'm not telling you why. That's still a secret for most people. And I'm going to make 54 copies of the game. So I'm going to make 60 of these just in case a few come out kooky. I'm going to be signing them. So in case I'm drinking a little bit too much and I sign it, Igor Fonstein. Is there anybody out there with that name? I don't know. I should Google it later. But I sign it wrong. And oh, shit. Son of a... Oh, where's the cussing jar? Oh, it's back here. I got a cussing jar for every time I swear now. I got to throw some money in because I'm going to be a rich SOB. I was going to say the word, but I don't want to throw more money in there. Where was I? Anyway, I'm going to print out this cover, and I'm doing 60 of them just in case I flub up. And then I'll have a few extras just in case something oddball happens. Because in the inside cover, there's something that only 54 people will have. And there's something in addition that's going to be slipped in there that only 54 people will have. I'm calling it the Clorg. You know, like the Borg, there's a collective. I call it the Clorg, Cloud People Borg. What's Borg stand for? I'm going to have to Google that too. Anyway, the 54 Clorgers will have a special something. And after that, I'm going to probably order some more and just remove a couple of things and then just do small little, hey, I'm going to run 10. Anybody interested? I'm surprised I got 54. I didn't intend to become a developer. I started this by saying I wanted to print out one for my own self because I've got a stack of next games from people that I've been buying from, and I don't have one up there. So make a physical cover for yourself. And then some people over the years have said, hey, if you make one, I'll buy one from you. And then okay, why don't I put out a note, put out a little letter on my Facebook group, Sinclair Society, 8-Bit Diary. Join them if you're not there, saying, hey, if I made and actually get this professionally printing one thing is kind of stupid. It's like eating one potato chip. You're going to eat a whole bag. So maybe it's best that I do 25 or 50 or whatever. So I went out and bought 25 SD cards, 25 SD cases, and I went down and got some printing quotes, and basically was going to do 25. But then I put up there and I came up with this 54 number, and I'll tell you later why in a future video when I could spill the full beans. Or I will tell the Patreons and YouTube members in advance because, hey, they've been cool in supporting my channel, so thank you. Anyway, so I came up with this 54, and I put out there, and I filled up all 54 slots. And there's 3 alternates, I'm calling them, in case some of the ones in the 54 slots no longer want to or can't or whatever. So it looks like I should be able to move, 54 copies of my game. After that, and I never advertised, I never went on to any of the other outside Next or Speccy groups, advertising or selling. I just did it in my own personal groups because those groups are kind of an extension of me, my YouTube channel, and what I'm up to. So I never did that. I'm guessing if I went out and said, I'm now selling it, would you be interested? I'd probably get a few more. So I may later on get some more printed up. But that's in the future. For now, I just need to do my first one, and I'm excited to go through the whole process. Am I a developer now? I guess so. I mean, even though the game is older, I'm putting a compilation of my original game for the Speccy 48, my next game, an extra few goodies that are going to go on this for people to enjoy. So I'm going to go through the whole motion of I'm developing it, I'm going to sell it, send it out, and see how it goes. If it's a terrible experience, I won't do it again. If it's a good experience, I'll do it again, probably. Odds are highly likely. And so far, the experience of me going through and making this and putting my graphic knowledge, I've got an AA degree in graphic design, believe it or not. I've always been an entrepreneurial or graphical guy. I like artistic, putting those things together. Don't tell me to draw the anatomy, because I'm terrible at that. But when it comes to clicking and clanking and moving stuff on screen, I think I do a pretty good job. Maybe some people see it as shitty. Other people think, hey, that guy's talented. I think I'm doing an okay job on creating a whole facade, a whole world, Invasion of the Cloud People. And I'm letting it out there for good or bad. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of say, are you thinking about making your first game? Consider developing, creating for the Speccy Next. It's a wonderful platform. It's a wonderful group of people. It's a fun experience. To tell you the truth, for me, it was relatively easy to a degree. I don't like math, but from creating sprites to moving sprites to getting backdrops to making a game to putting it out there for people to play it, it was a joyful experience, and I loved it. And hopefully some of you 10,000 people now out there that own Nexts are going to try to do the same, because I would love to play just common blokes like you, like me, whatever you create, because there's some great programmers, great coders, companies out there, or people that have been in the industry that know what the hell they're doing. You can tell when you grab my game and you grab a Baggers in Space or a Speed or any of the other games that are out there for the Speccy Next, Night, for example, you can tell those people have freaking good knowledge. They're good at what they do. Me, I'm a novice. Maybe I could say novice/intermediate. I'm someplace in between there. I've performed, and I've made it happen. I didn't sit there and dwaddle on something forever, for the good or the bad. But I think I've made a relatively fun little game, and I'm excited to put it out there in a physical form. So I'm going to turn off this camera. I'm going to go get the keys of my car, and we're going to drive in the town, and hopefully what I put on the SD card works. They print it, it looks good, and I can get the front cover, inner cover done. And then after that, the booklet, I'm waiting to do the booklet later because I'm waiting for the next ZXOS 2.08 from the next team that is licensed for me to allow to put on the SD card so you can boot from it. I'm working on trying to get that done. And then I got to make the SD card and put stuff on there, make sure it all works. So I've got a lot of work to do. But I'm inviting you to make your own game. If you haven't done it yet, just jump in, try it, move a character from A to B, get the feel of it, because I would love to play some more games from commoners, I'll call it, like you, like me, that don't have much of a clue, but are willing to try, willing to ask questions, even if they're dumb, and even though you get some feedback like don't stop your day job, but you persevere through the thick and thin and you make it happen. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Now I'm off to make my first printed cover. I hope it comes out good. If it looks like shit, Mom's not going to be happy. No, she'll still love me. That's my mom.